Hi guys, welcome back. Our compensatory damages are capped. There's a maximum. But most of our complaints consist of several claims, and we can recover the max on each one of those claims if we can show that each claim was a separate cause of action. A separate cause of action is basically a separate cause of legal action, a separate reason for us to sue our employer. And the best way I've found to show you what a separate cause of action is to show you what it's not. Situations where the facts and evidence are supporting multiple claims. We can hold our employer liable for what they do, but we can't hold them liable for the same thing more than once. Claims with the same basis. For instance, if your boss humiliates you in front of your coworkers every day, you might have a claim for hostile workplace, but you probably don't have a separate harassment claim for each day. Overlapping claims. For claims to be considered a separate cause of action, they have to be, go figure, totally separate. That's not exactly a clear objective criterion, but when I was researching this video, that's about as good as it got. If anybody out there has a better understanding, drop me a comment and let me know so I can do better in the future. Meanwhile, to help clarify the concept, I want to walk you through some of my claims where my AJ found I had no separate cause of action. I want to start by sharing in non-legal terms what it is I think my boss was trying to do. In the beginning, I think she was trying to intimidate me into dropping my request for reasonable accommodation because accommodating me would have been inconvenient. So she threw a big public hissy fit, and I think she believed that would intimidate me into backing off on my request. Sort of a cowardly, indirect version of failure to accommodate. But I didn't back off. Instead, I filed a complaint against her, and that sent her into a panic. I overheard her talking about it to another manager. A bunch of my coworkers had seen her hissy fit, and they knew it was about my request for reasonable accommodation. She told this other manager that if she backed down at that point and reasonably accommodated me because I'd filed a complaint, that all those other people would know that I'd won, and they might think about doing the same thing. She wasn't having that, so at that point she doubled down on her decision not to reasonably accommodate me. At that point in time, one of her motives was definitely to have a chilling effect on potential complaints from my coworkers. She did a few other retaliatory things too, of course, like trying to fire me, but I was able to keep her from doing that, so no harm there. By far the most harmful thing she did to retaliate was the poor hygiene thing. Later on, near the end of my informal process, HR in the legal office sort of twisted her arm into signing a form that gave me the reasonable accommodations that I'd requested, at least on paper. She took signing that form as a loss. She said she was the real victim and she felt harassed into signing that form. And that made her really mad at me. Like with my retaliation claim, she did some other things that supported my hostile workplace claim. But here again, by far the worst thing she did was the poor hygiene. At my hearing, the only one of those claims that I prevailed on was failure to accommodate. As a matter of law, retaliating by refusing to let me use my reasonable accommodations wasn't a separate cause of action. It was just more of her failing to accommodate me. If she'd been successful in firing me, that retaliation probably would have been a separate cause of action. It was the same for my hostile workplace claim. Abusing me by refusing to let me use my reasonable accommodations wasn't a whole separate thing, was just more of the same. So that's how separate causes of action played out in my case. I lost a few of my claims because of it. That part was a bummer, but it wasn't all bad news. There were some silver linings. Even though I only prevailed on my failure to accommodate claim, my AJ did acknowledge that the particular way my boss failed to accommodate me was extremely egregious, pervasive, and it severely harmed me on a number of fronts. He acknowledged that I felt abused, and he even said he understood why I'd feel that way. But as a matter of law, my claims weren't separate. And I get it, they weren't. But what he did, instead of letting me prevail on those other claims, was bump up the damages on the claim I won to the max. So even though I didn't win on every claim, I still ended up getting way more compensation than I expected. The thing I wanted the most, by far, was for NASA to have to pay my attorney fees. I never would have had to hire an attorney if they hadn't violated my rights, so that was really important to me that they pay. And my AJ ordered them to do it, 100%. NASA balked at that and said that they shouldn't have to pay for the claims that I lost. A lot of employers try that, and EEOC often goes along with it. But here's where the fact that my AJ found there was no separate cause of action actually worked in my favor. By finding there was no separate cause of action for the claims I lost, my AJ was essentially saying that everything I complained about was part of one big overarching claim for failure to accommodate. And I prevailed on that one. So sorry, NASA, you got to pay 100%. Of course, your case probably won't play out like mine did. In most cases, retaliation and hostile workplace actually are separate causes of action. But my case is a really good example of how separate causes of action can work for us and against us. That's going to help you package your claims in a way that makes it easier for your judge to distinguish between them. And it's also going to give you a better idea of what you could recover. Maybe more than you think. So that's it for today, guys. See you guys next time. Till then, take care and hang in.